Hey everybody, so today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my November, wow, getting a little ahead of myself, October reading wrap up, along with what I want to start paying attention to or really focus on in November. So not necessarily a TBR, but definitely like a to be focused. So anyways, I have some of the books here with me. Some of them are not, but we'll just go down the order of which I read them. So the very first book that I read to kick off the month of October, and I did this on purpose because if you watched my TBR for October, you know what I've said about Colleen Hoover books, and I was kind of in a rut for the first couple of weeks of October and I didn't really want to read anything. So I went ahead and I read Verity. This was the copy that I had pre-ordered with the extra chapter and stuff, and wow, there's so many I would say really polarized opinions on Verity. I feel like the people who love it really love it and the people who hate it really hate it. Like either party could talk 45 minutes on the subject. Either way, I had a good time with it. She started this book saying that this style wasn't typically what she did, but if you like Colleen Hoover and her other books, I really feel like you're still going to find her in here. You're going to still find her style and the kind of things that you've come to learn and love about her. You're definitely going to find those things in the book still. It just might be a little bit more on the creepy side. Now, did I love the ending? Did I love everything about this book? No, but it's a good time, and it's always a fast read when it comes to Colleen Hoover books. I fly through them and I gobble them up, and I just try to have low expectations and try to have fun with it, and I did here. So, you know, it wasn't anything groundbreaking, revolutionary, scariest thing I've ever read or anything like that, but it was a good time and it did get the ball rolling for me. So the next one that I finished reading first was Take Your Turn, Teddy. This was our book club pick for the month of October. My book club did two different picks. We did a kind of creepy and then just a horror pick. So the kind of creepy was more of like a creepy thriller that for those people who didn't want to read full on horror, and they read something that month, which it seemed like a fair amount of them enjoyed, which I was really happy with. However, the horror book I don't think worked out the way any of us would have loved to. I know, just like with any other genre, you know, horror is subjective. Everyone has a different take on what it is and what it means and all of those things, and I completely agree. But you know how sometimes you just read a book and you're wondering how it got in that genre? That's kind of how I felt with Take Your Turn, Teddy. It is a supernatural book. It is definitely creepy and eerie. I don't know that I would have put it in the horror category. I guess I don't know where else it would have gone. The first third of the book we were really loving. We were really enjoying. It definitely did feel like a horror book, and it was creepy. It was setting a complete vibe. And then it kind of just completely 180s and turns into something really different, and none of us really liked that pivot, but we were hopeful that it would pick up in like the last third of the book, and it definitely did something more in the last third of the book, just not anything that a lot of us were really thrilled with, I guess you could say. It was an okay book. I don't think anyone really avidly disliked it or anything. We just wanted more from it, and I think that was kind of the general consensus, is that we just wish it had been a little bit more. I gave that one a 3-star read. So it was okay, but nothing amazing for me. I guess I should have mentioned I gave Verity I gave it a 5-star, but I would probably bring it down to a 4-star now. I'm very generous with my 5 stars, if you guys don't remember, but I probably did that just because I had a good time, and I typically do rate things a 5-star for that. But thinking more about the ending and things that I would have liked to have seen from it, probably bring it down to 4 for a Verity. And like I said, it was a 3-star for Take Your Turn, Teddy. The next book that I read, that I actually still do have, and that is The Doctor's Demons, because I was on the fence about whether or not to keep this, which is kind of like a little spoiler. If you guys remember from my TBR, I said that I was really excited about this one because I've heard good things and it sounded like it was going to be up my genre alley. And it was, you could see that I did tab it in a few spots, which I was very hopeful for. 3 of them happened kind of back to back in the beginning, and that is always usually a good sign for me. However, the longer it went on, the more it was just all right. This is one of those books where I was really enjoying it until the ending. The book was really good in a lot of different ways. I don't know that I would say it was necessarily scary for me, but it definitely was creepy, definitely gave horror vibes. But towards the end, it was just a little too simplistic. It's a very involved story, and it kind of just wrapped up a little too neatly with a bow, if that makes sense, where you're just like, oh, it was that easy. Okay, sure, that's all right. If possession and kids in horror is something that you like to read about, then I feel like you would have a pretty good time with this. Maybe just don't expect a ton out of it, but I had a pretty good time. All around, it was all right for me. The next book I also do not have because I sold it on Pango Books, but that is The Exorcist House. You guys know my hopes were high for this one as well, and I think that was part of the biggest bummer of October, is because between Take Your Turn, Teddy, and The Doctor's Demons and The Exorcist House, I had really high hopes that I was really just going to really love one of those books, and maybe one of them would be like a new favorite horror book of mine, and just didn't get there. With The Exorcist House, I'm going to see what rating I gave it because I'm not entirely sure. Okay, yeah. I gave it 4. It was okay. The Exorcist House was a lot like The Doctor's Demons for me, where they were both doing a really good job of like setting up the scene and really giving you that horror vibe and just all those feelings. But then kind of in the last chunk of the book, things just being really easy. And if you know horror, that's almost like where everything kicks it up a notch even further, is like right before we get our resolution. And I felt like both of those books were just lacking it a little bit. I will say that I really did like The Doctor's Demons. I did like the perspective on this as far as exorcism went, because the woman, the doctor in this story, the main character, she is not religious. So obviously with a lot of possession movies, books, whatever, you obviously see that there's usually a religious aspect to it. However, it was focused more around the belief, and if you believe this is going to work, then it will, kind of thing. So it was a very interesting take, and I did really like that about this one. And The Exorcist House had a little bit more of like the traditional religious route. I just wasn't a super fan of either. They were both okay, and they were both a good time. I think if you are looking for, an average horror read, I think either of them will do just fine. And then I ended the month in the middle of Dead Silence. This book is what I was hoping the other ones would be. I have not finished it yet because I have had some other stuff going on, so I haven't quite powered through it yet. But this immediately was what I was hoping all the other books would be. Sets an atmosphere while also creating this feeling of like foreboding. Something even worse is going to be happening. I don't know. It was just a perfect balance of everything getting started with this book. So far, I've been really happy with it. I'm very excited to end it because I do think this has a potential to be a favorite horror book of mine, because it's just so far really, really good. Really good. I felt that way, especially about The Doctor's Demons, so I'm hoping that I have a good ending with this one. It's very promising, so I have my hopes up high with that. So that's everything that I read in the month of October, and really quickly, I'm going to share with you guys the books that I want to focus on for the month of November. So there's just a handful here. They're ones that I really want to focus on. So the first one that I did not get to because my shipment from Barnes & Noble ended up being a little delayed and stuff, so I really didn't get this until well into the month of October, and I was already reading other books, so I did not read it, which I was really hoping I would, because she's my favorite horror author, or at least one of them. But Little Eve, so this is the republication of one of Katrina Ward's very first books. Not her very first one, but I think her second. But either way, I'm very excited. I had looked at the first couple of pages, liking what I'm seeing so far. Her books are always like a quick, nice, easy read for me too. Kind of like Colleen Hoover, but in the horror sense for me. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I really want to read this one. So definitely going to be one of the first ups in November. Obviously, I guess I didn't say it, but I will be finishing this in the month of November. Next, and I feel like I'm going to be obviously late to this game because I'm sure everyone has already read it, and I've actually been hearing not so great things, which makes me a little worried. But It Starts With Us. This is a hardback edition that I had gotten from Waterstones from the UK because it has the sprayed edges. So yes, I am looking forward to this because I thought It Ends With Us was a pretty good book. It wasn't amazing. Again, it wasn't kind of what a lot of people thought it was, for me at least. But at the same time, I'm still very interested in Atlas and the backstory. And I'm just really hoping that I have a good time with it. Again, keep the expectations low, and maybe it'll go better than what a lot of other people are saying. This next book, Mark always teases me for this book because obviously it doesn't give the best... Whatever, I'm done explaining myself. It's How to Kill Your Family. It is a horror book. It was published in the UK, and for the longest time I couldn't get my hands on it, and people said it was like one of the best horror books, I believe, of 2022. Okay, so no, it was published last year in 2021 in the UK. So it was originally published last year, and I had seen a lot of articles saying that this was one of the best horror books last year. I wanted to read it, could never get my hands on it. And I have told Mark about this before, and he's like, it just has such a bad title. I'm going to read you this blurb so you can understand why I picked it up, because honestly, it just sounded like very interesting to me. It says, Grace Bernard is an ambitious young woman in London. Grace is from an underprivileged background with an absent biological father and a working class immigrant mother who died from cancer when Grace was still little. So when Grace discovers the identity of her father and learns of his and his family's cruel treatment of her dying mother, she vows revenge. Grace coldly sets out to kill them all, one by one. The challenge is knocking off her loathsome family without arousing too much suspicion. So Grace exploits their vanity and shamelessness. A car accident here, a drowning there, bring Grace closer to the ultimate payback, as well as the fabulous inheritance she knows she deserves. So it sounds like a very interesting story. I liked the premise of it, and like I said, so many articles were saying that it was a really, really good book. I know it's not exactly the same, but one of my favorite horror movies is You're Next, and it is about a girl who is trying to survive in a family that is trying to kill her. So it's kind of like the opposite, but it was kind of giving me that vibe. So I'm very interested to see how this goes. And like I said, it was just published in the United States, so that's how I finally got my hands on it, and that's the reason why I want to read it so badly. Also, funny story with this one, the first one that I got, the cover was just ripped way far down here. It was just like beyond helping. So I had it returned so I could get a better copy. So Mark had to actually exchange this at the UPS store. You know how they don't have you box anything up anymore, pretty much? He walked this into UPS and returned a book on how to kill your family. So for as much teasing as he gives me, he had to do that with a straight face in the UPS store. So lastly, and this is the whole reason why I decided to only focus on so many books this month, because I knew this would obviously take most of my time. But Mark and I had been watching House of the Dragon. We have been loving it so far. Mark and I had watched Game of Thrones, and we were big fans of that when it was still on TV. We've rewatched that, and honestly, I think our expectations of House of the Dragon were actually pretty low. I thought we might like watch it and kind of like it, and it just kind of be like this short series that we all just kind of, okay, that was a good time. It has blown every expectation out of the water, and we are in love. However, it did wrap up its season just a couple of weeks ago, and the next season is not projected to be out until about 2024, maybe really late 2023, but I have zero patience and zero chill, so I bought this. So I have never read a fantasy book before. I have started the Game of Thrones series several times, and I've never finished it. It is obviously a chunker. It's George R.R. Martin. You can't really expect anything less with him. And I'm hoping that this also gives me the confidence to tackle Game of Thrones, because even though I know the series Game of Thrones, reading the books is still an experience in and of itself. There's still obviously a ton of things that are not included in the series, and you're still learning a lot. So even if you've watched the shows, it's still a bit intimidating to read through some of this. But I'm just so eager. I need to figure it out. I need to know. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this a shot. I will say one thing I love about George R.R. Martin books is the flop. Look at this. I didn't do anything. The spine is not broken. They just lay like this, which is just beautiful. This is obviously paperback, but it does have some illustrations in here, which I did not know. There's a fully illustrated version, I believe. So you can see there's several different illustrations. I'm just showing you one. I'm very excited for this. I want to jump into it. So I knew that this was going to take most of my time, and that's the reason why I only really wanted to focus on these books right here, you know, because I doubt that I will be able to finish this just in like one hard go. Even if it took me a couple of weeks, I feel like I'm going to have to come up for air just because fantasy isn't typically my thing. Horror is. So we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I can finish this in just a stint all by itself. But if I do need to come up for air, I've got a Colleen Hoover book that I know I will fly through regardless if I like it or not. I've got a favorite author. I've got one that I am already liking so far, and a book that I'm really looking forward to. So kind of all things to complement and help me get through this big chunker, and I'm very, very eager. So yes, those are all the books that I read in October. Those are the books that I'm going to be focusing on in the month of November, and I think I'm going to be doing a similar style video for November and December. And also shortly after this, you're probably going to be seeing an unhaul video because I desperately need to do that. So I need to be going through my books and just take an honest look at them. I feel like when I got back into reading, I wasn't super intentional with my choices. I was just grabbing like anything and everything because I was just so excited to be back into reading. And I'm not going to sit here and make myself feel bad about that, but I feel like at this point, my physical TBR, I've got too many books that I don't think I'll ever get to, and I do want to be more intentional about the decisions. So I think I'm going to do an unhaul video. But yeah, let me know down in the comments below what you guys have been reading over the month of October, if you had any new favorite books or anything. And if you stuck around for the entire video, why don't we go ahead and just put the dragon emoji. We got to do it. That's all I can think about is getting to this book. I'm so excited, guys. But yeah, if you did hang out with me the entire time, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.